This conference will now be recorded.
Quorum here, so we're going to pause just for a minute.
And
She's just from Hazel.
the other one.
Two side interns.
Okay.
The one who just signed out.
Oh.
Representing Hazel. So she's representing a small a SCAC. So we could change out this one.
And yeah, what?
She signed in. We have the last one.
And those.
The two against the window are interns.
Good.
I don't remember their names. We can find it. They said down our hall. He asked.
Harry, if their name, what name did you say?
Danielle.
Brent Clark. No. Don't count.
Danielle, Justin Shore. Justin Shore is one of them.
Wait, from short
Clearwater.
relay council member.
Yep.
So
then we have it because Justin was here.
So you replace
Swift 10.
1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Daniel is here.
Yep, we got her. Oh, if we count Danielle.
I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Is Nina online?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah, he is. And he does not have a alternate on this list.
One more?
Yeah.
Is there anybody from KDOT?
Matt Messina, but nope. Corey Davis would have to show up. You realize the mic's on, right?
Yeah.
Dan Squires, yes.
So the issue is for KDOT has to be either Kristen or Matt is here, but he's not really down here.
Does that not satisfy?
I think Matt, yeah, I think we can
So
count
can
that.
we count Chris Matt as Christie's rep? Christie's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that should be the case since it's she no longer.
Okay, that makes sense. So
sort of. That's 11.
that's all we need, right?
Wait. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good morning and thanks and welcome to the May 23rd TAC meeting. We do have a quorum. I'd like to welcome everybody for regular business. There is a couple of changes to the agenda that will not take any motion. It's just going to move item C down to the end. We'll do that at the end. So with that, entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted. So moved. Motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Also attached are the minutes from April 25th. If there's any discussion, we could pull them off. If not, entertain a motion to approve as submitted. So moved. Motion and second to approve the minutes of April 25th. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Seeing none. Thank you. Director's report. Go ahead, Chad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of Technical Advisory Committee. Just to provide an overview today, we have staff introductions and website organization that Ashley will be presenting soon. On the agenda items, though, we have some action items for the TIP amendment, and then a long-range transportation plan administrative modification as well. As you all know, MPO activities primarily focus on long-range transportation plan and then short-range transportation plan development. And long-range transportation plan is called as MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan, also known as Reimagined Move 2040. And then short-range transportation plan is TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, where the funding commitments are in place and the projects are identified for the next 4 years. And those amendments and modifications are reported to this committee as well as the policy body as well. On the note of what are the MPO activities, it's not unique to this MPO. Many MPOs in many states also dive into performance measures, such as how the safety is improving with all the investments that's happening in transportation projects. So there's also the monitoring of crash data and so on that needs for various modes of transportation. That item is also there on the agenda today. And then you have heard from staff sharing with you the trends that occurred in our MPO area as well. And then also we have bike pit counts that will be presented by staff today. With that, let me request Ashley to, the items for staff introductions and a few items for this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, So for the new staff introductions, I'll say who they are and if they could come up and introduce who they are. So we have Eldon, Kaylin, and Emily. If you could come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eldon Taskinen. I'm a transportation planning intern. I have been hired this summer. I'm a graduate student at WSU studying Earth, Environment, and Physical Sciences. And part of my specialization in my major is in the ArcGIS software, which is why I've been interested and have been helping out with the WAMPO this summer. So I look forward to seeing more of you, and I'll be helping out with the maps as time goes on.
Hi, I'm Kaylin Travaskis. I'm getting my MPA, Master's in Public Administration at WSU right now. I have another Master's in Anthropology, and I just started last week. So I've been working on the tip with everyone. Happy to be here and be part of everything. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Tone and I have just recently graduated on May 14th with my Master's in Public Administration. I also have certificates in public finance, nonprofit management, and economic development. And I am working as a transportation planning intern and working on various projects that WAMPO does. So it's great to be here and thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Eldon, Kaylin, and Emily. Welcome to the staff, and we look forward to working with you.
All right, thank you. So the next thing on the overview or the report is the new website. Just wanted to let you know that we recently reorganized the website. So it's the same URL, but it looks different when you go to it. We've grouped things differently under different projects, and each of the committees have their own web page, as well as different pages for each of our core documents. So the MTP, TIP, UPWP, and the public participation plan. And we also added a search bar to the website, so that's helpful and exciting. And we now have some translation, so that's useful as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. This time, public comment. I understand we do have a public comment to be read.
Yes, we had one entered in this morning. We have one from Jane Burns, and it says she is advocating for safe design and maintenance of out-of-vehicle transportation, and also for funding of actives such as bike lanes and/or alternative transportation, such as railroads. Car-centric engineers and decision makers must acknowledge that getting folks safely out of cars contributes to safety, health, and independence for school children, seniors, disabled, and tourists. And then she says, best wishes for a successful meeting.
Thank you for reading that. And also, Jane, thank you very much for submitting that. For the business portion of the agenda, the first item is the Reimagine Move 2040 administrative modifications. Ashley and Nick.
Thank you. Oops. There we go. So the Reimagine Move 2040 is our long-range transportation plan that was completed in June of 2020. And we have the ability to make adjustments as needed. We can do administrative modifications, which is what we're doing here, and we can do amendments. And it depends on the scope of the changes that we need to make. If they're relatively minor, we can do them as modifications, and that's what we're doing today. And this does not require public comment, or we don't have to redo the fiscal constraint analysis. It does require approval from TPP, and so we thought it might as well come through TAC. And now Nick is going to talk about the administrative modification.
Thank you. We received a request for an administrative modification in regard to one specific project in the MTP, that being the East Kellogg project, that you have heard so much about in your recent meetings, shown on the map here between the junction of I-35 and K-96 and Prairie Creek Road, or rather half a mile east of Prairie Creek Road in Butler County. The only one change is being made to this, and that is just changing the time band associated with the project from 2025 to 2040 to 2020 to 2040, because they intend to start the project just a little earlier than 2025. And so that's all the change that is changed there. In other words, the cost of the project is not changed. So the MTP remains fiscally constrained, and because the project, and because the number of projects in the MTP and the physical extent of those projects and the nature of the projects is unchanged, there's no need for the environmental justice analysis to be altered either. So this is about as minor of a change as we could have, and so that's why this is only an administrative modification. Now this does also, in addition to changing this one line in the project list appendix, it does change a couple of the tables in the financial appendix. However, it does, as I said, it does not change the fiscal constraint analysis. So just a couple changes to tables 14 and 16, which divide projects out by when they are happening. So just shifting money, just shifting some things around in those tables is all that you need to note there. And so your options here are to recommend that the TPB approve the administrative modification as is, recommend that they not approve it, or recommend that they approve it with specific changes. And obviously our recommendation is that you recommend that the TPB approve it.
Thank you, Nick. Any discussion from anyone? Anyone on the phone have any discussion? If not, entertain a motion to approve the modification and forward it to the transportation policy body.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation and forward it on to the transportation policy body. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Seeing or hearing none, thank you. I believe you're still up, Nick, for the second item.
Thank you. I'm actually here for a short second first. We also have a TIP special amendment. This is 6.5, and this is associated with the MTP administrative modification. The TIP amendments are typically done on a regular cycle about quarterly, but we can do special TIP amendments if necessary, like this was needed and requested. The public comment period was in April 23rd to just recently, May 22nd. We did not receive any public comments. And then we're here, and then hopefully will be recommended for approval at the June 15th TPB meeting. And here's Nick.
Thank you. You can find more information on this TIP special amendment on pages 13 to 23 of your packet, or on our website at wampo.org/transportation-improvement-program. There was one project involved with this that had a small enough change that it could be merely an administrative adjustment, and then three projects that require formal action. One for a new project and two for modifications to the TIP. Sorry, two. Sorry, I spoke just now. It's one for a project to be added and two for significant modifications to projects. Sorry. The The one project that is an administrative adjustment this time around is not a mappable project. It was one of the bucket projects from KDOT. And then the three requiring formal action are one from the City of Mays, the Academy Avenue project, shown as number 1 on this map. And then 2 and 3 are both projects related to the East Kellogg project that was referenced in the MTP administrative modification. So with the same spatial extent for those two, just one is a project that is already in the TIP that is being changed, and the other is a project for a different phase of East Kellogg that is being programmed as a new project. So the details on the Academy Avenue project, the only change is an increase in the cost of 32.9% of over $2 million, all coming from local funds. And then on the first KDOT project, they added the utility relocation and right-of-way acquisition phases, split out a portion of the preliminary engineering phase to the other new project here, and then increased the cost estimate by 74.5%, $25 million coming from state and NHPP funds, and changed the name of the project because the original name was the one that they decided they would rather have for the new project, and so the existing project got the name change, and that is what you see here in the middle one. And then the new project down the bottom is in the amount of $276 million is the new project covering the construction phase of the project. And so that's why that one is new there with a much larger amount. This has been through the public comment and review period for 30 days ending yesterday. It is consistent with the MTP, or at least it will be consistent with the MTP once the administrative modification is approved, which will happen right before the vote on this special amendment at the next TPB meeting. It is fiscally constrained, and the financial impact is adding $305.4 million. And so once again, your options are to recommend the TPB approve as proposed, recommend the TPB not approve, or recommend the TPB approve with specific changes.
Any comments? Nick, I have one question just for clarification. On the new project, call out the 276 million. Does that require any funding changes? Any WAMPO funds, anything attached there? The one above it talks about from state and NHPP funds, but does that other one?
So I guess, sorry for not specifying that. It does not involve WAMPO sub-allocated funds at all. It is a state project using NHPP federal funds, so nothing to worry about in that regard.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing or seeing none, entertain a motion to approve Amendment 6.5 to be forwarded on to the main body.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Amendment 6.5. Moving on. All in favor say aye. Hearing or seeing none else? Very well, thank you. We'll go now to item D, bike pad count locations. Dora?
Good morning, I'm Dora Gallo, transportation planner here at WAMPO. So today I'm gonna go over the bike ped count locations that we have from the past and then some potential additional locations for this year. So we use the bike ped count as a way to identify and prioritize bicycle and pedestrian improvements based on existing conditions, existing plans, and the needs of bicycle riders and pedestrians. So we have 38 current locations, what we've used in the past, and they're all listed here. And then the ones highlighted in yellow are the proposed, which is on 13th and Broadway, due to the new bike lanes that were added. And then 21st and Hillside, which is around the WSU area, based on the Wichita State traffic flow. Our bed count will be in September, the 21st, 22nd, and the 24th. Volunteers can sign up on our webpage. There's a link here in our agenda packet, and then also online. We did a link for that, and any volunteers can sign up there. If there's any questions, I'm the bike and ped contact. And then here's a map, just on the locations that we have and the current and the proposed ones as well. Yeah, we can definitely add that. We have a comment. Where do I look at the comments? Yeah, there's a comment said that could the Redwood Trail and Andover Road be added, and we can definitely add that to our bike and ped count location. Any other locations that anybody wants to add?
The 13th and Broadway, where did that come from? That seems a little bit odd in the sense that's where it just dead ends. Looks like 17th or 15th would make a lot more sense. Probably 17th.
Okay, we can change that location. Any other questions or concerns? Comments?
Any other discussion at all? Dora, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation. All right, update from the TIP and MTP open house. Ashley?
All right, thank you. So as you are aware, we are working on a new transportation improvement program, or TIP, the federal fiscal year 23 to 26. And so we did the project selection process this past spring, and now we're working on developing the document. We are required to have an open house during the public comment period. And so we decided we should have a joint open house for the new TIP and then also for the MTP amendment. The MTP amendment is due to the TIP, and so they're so related, we thought it would make sense to have them together and not separate them. So that open house will be at the Wichita Public Library at the Advanced Learning Library on Wednesday, June 29th from 4 to 6:30. It'll be a come and go type thing, so you don't have to be there the whole time. Any questions about this?
Just, I guess not a question, but just clarification for the open house. Is this open and be published to the public, or is this for our two boards to attend?
For the public, yeah. We're putting together a flyer and we'll do a press release and all that as well.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Let me check if Dave is on the line.
I am, Chad.
Thank you, Dave.
I think that was Chad.
This conference will now be recorded.
David, thanks for joining whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Okay. Well, anyway, I have a separate webcam, so that is messing up the sound. Can you guys hear me okay? Is there bad echo? Yes.
Echo, yes.
Hold on. All right. Okay. I'm still getting the echo.
If you mute your site or your mic, it sounds like that'll take away the echo. Okay, now we're getting word turn on your mic and turn off your speaker. Or lower it.
Well, how are you getting feedback now?
We are not. You're good.
Okay. All right. All right. So now how do let's see, I need to share a screen. How do I do that? Sorry about this. Or are you going to run slides for me? Oh, I see. Okay. All right. You see a screen that has KDOT federal performance measures?
Yes, we see a screen that's up now that's got a graph on it.
Yeah. And it's probably not readable from any distance at all, but I'll try to talk about it and not necessarily refer to it too much. Okay, I think maybe we're ready to roll. Sorry about that, and thanks for your patience. My name is Dave Schwartz, and I am one of the folks at KDOT that is responsible for performance measures. Actually, in the past year, we started a new division of performance measures, but a lot of those are internally focused, things that that you see as far as, we've gone to performance-based budgeting. And so they've been working really hard over the past year, setting a lot of performance measures that drive, where we invest our state's tax dollars and things like that at KDOT. But I am still kind of the person responsible for reporting the performance measures to FHWA. And so back in the previous transportation authorization, federal, in the FAST Act, DOT required all states to report on performance measures that support the 7 goals of the transportation system, okay? And so they came up with performance measures that not only us as state DOTs, but also MPOs have to consider when we do our planning process. And so first they came out with performance measures for safety, which is what I've got on the screen right now. And then there's also system conditions for pavement and bridge assets, and that's, you know, trying to maintain a state of good repair on the national highway system. And then finally, system reliability, and that's talking about, you know, operations of the system. Can you reliably make it to your destination? And actually, the kind of the benchmark is that you're only late 1 in 20 times. And and if you miss that benchmark, then you have to, you know, it's not as up to par, I guess. And we'll get into all of those, and I'll try to be I'll try to be as brief as I can while still giving you the background of these performance measures. And I know some of you may have heard me speak on this before, but it has been a little bit, so I'll probably you know, still be pretty basic. But let's get into the actual measures. So there's 5 performance measures for safety. Fatalities, so that's the overall number of fatalities in Kansas on all public roads. The fatality rate, so that divides the fatalities by the vehicle miles traveled, which, you know, we have to have some estimate of traffic volumes and things like that, which we're required to do for other things like funding allocation and things like that. And then serious injuries. So these are the life-changing injuries. And then serious injury rate, which, you know, it's divided by the same overall travel number that the fatality rate is. And then the 5th one is fairly new. I mean, it came out the same as the others, but it's not something that most entities had been tracking before the federal requirement. But it's fatalities and serious injuries of non-motorized users. So usually this involves someone on a bicycle or a pedestrian being struck by a motor vehicle. And so, but I mean, that is a serious issue, and unfortunately it is on the rise. And hopefully as we get people to, you know, work toward active transportation, one of the drawbacks of that is that there will be more exposure between motor vehicles and those vulnerable users. So let's work our way through these fairly quickly. So fatalities, this is the one that probably most lay people are familiar with, and unfortunately it's just a sad fact that in Kansas over 400 people die every year on the public roadways. And so one of the things that as you look at here, and again, I apologize if you can't read the numbers, the individual numbers, but the blue bars represent the actual number of fatalities by year, and then the yellow trend line, that represents a 5-year average. So actually, because fatalities tend to be a noisy statistic, I mean, in that there's a lot of fluctuation. Sometimes it's really out of our control. And you know, anyway, FHWA and NHTSA, you know, NHTSA is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and they also, you know, are heavily focused on safety and preventing these types of tragic crashes. We go by a 5-year average, a moving 5-year average. So for example, this 2016 number for the yellow trend line, that's actually that's it. Okay, yeah, there we go. There's a moving average of 385. So unfortunately, even that moving average, you know, we'll see fluctuation year to year, but the moving average has been also headed upward. And the performance measure is actually the moving average. It's not the 1-year total. But so any one given year can only have like 20% of the weight for that. But we have chosen to go with a lower number as far as the target for this. Even though the trend suggests that fatalities keep increasing, we have decided that, you know, we are going to try for a lower number. This represents about, well, actually, what we said was we had 407 actual fatalities back in the year 2018, and we want to hold the line on that. So that was the target. Now, actually, for this coming year, we plan to choose an even lower target of 400 because that's just kind of a memorable number, being a round number. And it's probably an aspirational target, meaning that unless there's a sea change, we probably aren't going to see 400 fatalities, but that's what we want to set our target at. And I'll get back to the targets later on, but one of the reasons why we're presenting this information to you is that WAMPO will have to decide whether to support the state's targets or set your own targets for each one of these. And the safety targets are every year. So that is something that we set targets every year. And unfortunately, the crash data lags behind so far that you're sometimes setting targets and you don't know yet how you did in the current year. So for example, we have not finalized the totals for 2021 yet. So that should be coming out here in the next month or so. So anyway, I've probably spent longer than I should on that, but I kind of wanted to give you a taste of how the whole measure and the trend setting goes. So fatality rate, again, this is accounting for changes in traffic. Well, the year 2020, everyone knows, was an anomalous year because of stay-at-home orders and things like that from the pandemic. So we had hoped that the fatalities would decrease because traffic was decreasing, but unfortunately that was not the case. It appears that having wide open roads caused people to throw caution to the wind. And again, I'm talking in very general terms, and I certainly don't want to offend anybody who lost someone in 2020. But what we tended to see was that without congestion, that people just drove as fast as they can. Some people. I know that we have plenty of law-abiding people, but anyway, so even the fatality rate, well, we probably should have expected that to rise as well. But again, the target that we set for fatality rate was, again, what that value was in 2018. We said that's what we're going to set the target at for 2022. And for the new target for next year, it will be even lower because it will be that 400 fatalities that we're shooting for divided by what we expect the traffic to be. And again, traffic has recovered mostly. It's probably still lagging behind a little bit in the Wichita area and also the Kansas City areas, but that rate will probably also drop because we chose a lower fatality target. Serious injuries, again, these are or sometimes called disabling injuries. We did change the methodology for reporting serious injuries, and that was in 2018. And so the number went way up. So these numbers for 2016 and 2017 are actually, what we're showing is higher than what actually was reported. We did a backcasting procedure to make kind of compare apples and oranges. Otherwise, these numbers would have been a lot lower. And that allowed us to help set the trend line, which was downward. You can see the 5-year average. Once we adjusted the 2016 and 2017 numbers, the trend in serious injuries is downward. So that's good. But unfortunately, it did rise in 2020. Again, we just had some more, we had more severe crashes. And the target that was chosen reflects that it's actually even lower than that downward trend. And for 2023, we are going to choose a target of 1,000. Again, that round number to help resonate with people. That's what we want to shoot for. And again, it's very aspirational, but I think that we can get there. As advancements in vehicle technology, and also, we're trying to improve roadways and driver behavior. I think that we can get there. Serious injury rate, it's very similar to the overall serious injury. And again, we chose an aspirational target, trying to show that we are really serious about reducing serious injuries. And then finally, non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Again, this shows a slight downward trend, but again, these 16 and 17 were backcasted to account for the difference in methodology and serious injuries. If we showed the actual amounts, there would probably be a slightly increasing trend in this statistic, in this performance measure. But again, the target chosen was to remain on the low side. We want to try to continue to reduce those. So how am I doing on time? I've covered the safety ones, and those are the ones that we really did need to cover because we set targets on those every year. Would you like me to continue on with the system conditions and system reliability, or have I used up too much time?
No, Dave, you're fine. Go ahead and just complete your.
Okay. All right, thank you. So, and there's fewer of these anyway. So moving on to system conditions, as I said, what we measure here is the national highway system. So these are all of the interstates, and then for pavement, interstate is broken out separately anyway. But then the major US routes. So for example, US 54 and 400 is NHS route, but also K96 is NHS route. K254, I believe, is also. So just to give you a flavor for, it's not all of the state highway system, but it's really the major carriers of people and freight. So this first one is the measure of interstate pavement, and again, there's three different things that we track on our pavement every year. We go out and drive all the interstates, and I think that we get to about half of the non-interstate pavement. But anyway, they go through and assign a rating based on those three measurements that they take, like rutting, cracking, faulting. And so a pavement is either good, fair, or poor. And what we're trying to do is maximize the amount of pavement that is in good condition and minimize the amount that's in poor condition. For this measure, there actually is a federally mandated that you can't exceed more than 5% of your pavement in poor condition. Well, you can see down here that we are nowhere close to that. We're at a fraction of a percent of the interstate pavement in Kansas. And we've actually been doing fairly well, but you know, poor condition is pretty bad. I mean, that's a lot of potholes, or the joints are just really badly deteriorated, things like that. So you really don't want to get there, because pretty much when you get to poor condition, that your best bet is to rebuild. So, and that's expensive to actually, and we have been doing it. And a lot of our interstate pavement has reached its design life because, you know, a lot of, especially the rural portions, were built in the 1960s. But still, you want to try to stay out of this territory. So we're doing well with the percent in poor condition. We've been slipping a little bit on the good condition, but you can see that with Ike legislation, of course, in 2020, Ike passed in 2020, so there probably wasn't a lot that we could get to, but even so, the percent poor or percent good took a nice little jump there. The target, again, was based on this trend, but I think that the new target we're going to set for this next year is going to be a little more aspirational. Well, not aspirational, but in showing off that positive trend that we expect to see with the Ike funding. Non-interstate, similar story. The percent good has been in a slight decline. Unfortunately, the percent poor has been increasing, and so that's going the wrong direction. So for the percent good, we did set a target that would be, it would account for, you know, if we did have some slippage, but I believe the new target that we'll be setting this fall is going to be quite a bit more ambitious. It'll probably be up here. That has not yet been set though. And for the poor, we want this to be lower. The target that we set does show a little bit lower, but this target was actually set before we knew the 2020 data. So again, we expect these to start moving in the right direction as the Ike projects continue to move through. And you know, that's not just new construction. There's a lot of preservation, and that was built into the Ike legislation that KDOT needs to continue to be concerned about preserving the assets that we have. Moving on to bridge. So again, it's a long title, but this by deck area means that if it's a bigger bridge, that it counts more toward this performance measure than a smaller bridge does. So for example, Kellogg through downtown Wichita, and also the canal route of I-135, both of those have a lot to say about our overall NHS deck area and its condition. So for example, if a large section of 135 would happen to fall into poor, that could really make this number jump up. But as it is, we're doing pretty well. We are hoping to and planning to turn this downward trend around again as Ike projects move through the pipeline. And then the poor trend is actually pretty good. You can see that has also been decreasing. This target here was a very conservative target. I'm pretty sure that this fall we will probably choose something a lot lower. This target was chosen before we even knew about Ike or whether it was going to pass. So we gave ourselves a little bit of room. I think that we'll probably set a lower target. And then finally, the last category is that system reliability that I talked about. Again, this is the FHWA, in order to facilitate this performance measure, they purchased travel time data for all over the NHS. And it's broken down, I think, into 5-minute bins. And so each segment, say, you know, I-235 between Kellogg and Zoo or whatever, you know, actually it's probably even finer than that. It reports a speed on that, an average speed on that segment. And so from that, you can come up with these system reliability. And like I mentioned earlier, the goal is to only be late 1 in 20 times, or 95% of the time you are on time. So they separated it out again for interstate highways and non-interstate highways. And this is a brand new statistic, so we didn't know exactly which way this was trending. But now we have 5 years of data points, and you can see it was fairly constant. And again, this is a statewide number for all interstates. And then look what happened in 2020 when traffic plummeted because of stay-at-home orders and the economy and things like that. Well, guess what? When you don't have as much traffic, then your reliability shoots up. And 99%, we never, you know, outside of a pandemic, we never would have expected that. So the target that we set is more in line with what we had been seeing over here. And again, that target is at 95% of the time. For non-interstate, well, for one thing, the data isn't as robust in that, because, you know, there's just isn't as much traffic, say on US 83 out in Western Kansas. There may not, you may go 5 minutes where there may not be anybody or only 1 or 2 vehicles, and those may not have a probe to report the speeds out there. So, but anyway, it's still overall over all time periods, it's still a good measure for how we're doing outside of the interstates. And you can see, just like the interstate, the reliability went up, not crazy like it did with the interstate, but it is higher even than what we showed in 2016. And so again, the target was set fairly conservatively because we didn't know about the pandemic when that target was set. And I don't know how aspirational we'll get with the targets on this fall. That discussion is yet to be had. And then finally, one of the national goals is moving freight. And so there is a separate reliability thing reliability measure for truck travel time. but it's based on the same data as what we talked about before. But this is more of an index. So the closer you get to 1, the better you are, the more reliable your travel is. And so we didn't have a great year in 2019, but during the pandemic year, we set a new record. Again, only 5 data points, but 1.13. And this was the target that we set of 1.16, again, pre-pandemic. So that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions? And again, what WAMPO will need to do this year is determine whether you want to follow on to the state's targets for safety or set your own. And then after we set the targets this fall for these other ones, the system condition and system reliability, then we'll also ask you what you want to do for those.
David, this is Bert. There was a question that came online. What are the consequences for not meeting these targets?
That is a great question. So yeah, so basically we lose flexibility if we don't make the targets, but it's not, especially in terms of safety, that's not a big deal anyway. States do have the ability to flex funds away from like safety dollars that we get from FHWA, not NHTSA. There's no flexibility on those. NHTSA dollars have to be spent on things like seatbelt campaigns and car seats and drunk driving enforcement and things like that. But the safety construction dollars that we receive from FHWA, if we don't make those targets, we have to spend, we can't flex those out and say do overlays with it. But we don't do that anyway, so it's not a big hit. The other requirement is that we have to do what's called HISIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program implementation plan. Everybody has to do a Highway Safety Improvement Program, just like you guys have to do a TIP, like Ashley mentioned. That's something that we do every year, but it's a little extra step to show that we are being data-driven in how we're using our federal highway safety dollars. So again, not a big consequence. You know, I suppose that for some folks, they would rather see us making targets than missing them, but it's also an education moment that, you know, hey, we do have, you know, what are we willing to tolerate as a society? And we'd really like to see us move in a safer direction. So that's for safety. For the system conditions, if again, the targets there, or the things that you have to meet, aren't based on our targets, the ones that we choose. But like for interstates, there's a if you go over this 5% poor, then you lose flexibility, and so you have to spend more of your dollars on preservation. Again, we required that, or we are required by our Ike legislation to pay attention to our system condition as well. So that's not going to be a big thing for us. And then as far as system reliability, since everybody's still kind of getting used to that, there are no requirements, you know, for missed targets for system reliability. Now there are some other ones that larger metros have to deal with, that like if they have really bad congestion and then air quality suffers as a result, then they may have dollars redirected, and those actually do affect the metro area that is under that air quality condition. But in Kansas, neither Wichita nor Kansas City metro areas are in non-attainment for air quality, so we don't actually track those. Great question.
Okay, one other question I guess would be, is the data you're presenting, if the WAMPO is going to be doing their own, is this, and it could be a question for our staff, is this question that data you're showing at DOT or KDOT level, and is there the same information at our level?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave, in the previous conversations the WAMPO staff had with you, we're really appreciative of the way you have compiled the data for the state, and thanks today for presenting the safety trends and the infrastructure condition, like bridge condition and the system reliability. These 3 measures are required by Federal Highway Administration for MPOs as well. And then your presentation on state level is very helpful. I have one quick question on the safety targets. In our previous conversations with you, we have mentioned that staff at WAMPO is supportive of the efforts that state is committed to improve safety. And same with WAMPO staff as well. WAMPO staff works with WAMPO Safety Committee and committed to improving safety and reducing fatalities over a period of years. So we really support your efforts in this. And then we just want to know what's the formal procedure for this, because that way, more importantly, we want to partner with you. Partnership is important for WAMPO staff with state and federal and local communities, because we all in together can make this happen. So that's my first comment. I have a second comment if you have any response to this, Dave.
And I'm not sure the partnering process, is that what you asked about, Chad?
Like, what's the formal process that we can support you?
Okay. Yeah,
targets?
and to answer the other question, that we do make data available for each MPO, and it may not always be timely, but we're trying to be able to support that, and we've actually put some online portals out there so MPOs can go out and get their own data. But yeah, we are going to try to do a better job of sharing the data that you need to make your decisions for your metro area. And Chad, that's a great point. And actually, for the safety performance measures, it is ultimately important that we work with our local partners, because in Kansas, only I think less than half of all the fatalities occur on our state highway system. So the other part, we're going to have to work with MPOs, with cities, with counties, both, all of the E's. They talk about the 5 E's of safety: enforcement, education, engineering, EMT, and then I think somebody added the 5th E is everyone. But anyway, it is going to take a coordinated effort at the local level to help drive down fatalities and serious injuries even more. So, and I believe that there will be more local funding opportunities coming up very shortly. We have, in addition to a new performance measures division, we also have a new Bureau of Transportation Safety, and they're looking at how we have structured our dollars, especially those engineering dollars. And I do believe that there will be more dollars allocated to locals to be able to, make those safety improvements. So yeah, your point is right in line, Chad. And if you have the other question.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Now, the second comment is that, we work closely with Safety Committee, and last year when we had looked at the data, we brainstormed and we thought, what are some other counties are doing where, the population is same, but the crashes are a lot lesser? Because we want to identify what are those strategies that are helping in some areas in state. So we want to use those lessons learned to apply in Sedgwick County and in our MPO area. So that's one thing we want to touch base with you on, how do we analyze this data for other areas? That's one thing we want to work with you, because with Safety Committee, we identified 3 things. One is how can we, what are the locations where infrastructure improvements can be made to improve safety, and technology, of course. And then third was driver behavior and educational awareness that you said. So among all the strategies and, things that we can put in place is something we want to talk to you in the future. That was my second comment. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Again, great comment, Chad. And I have good news. Like I said, we just formed this new Bureau of Transportation Safety in the last year, and I hope I'm giving out insider information, but we plan to hire a couple of data analysts for that new bureau. So, and I believe that they will partner with locals. And I'm sorry, Wichita, you are in the crosshairs. I do know that that there are some disturbing trends in traffic safety in Wichita. And so the bad news, I mean, that's the bad news. The good news is that we see you and we want to do whatever we can to support you in trying to bring those back in line. It just, higher numbers of really high speed crashes and things like that. I'm not sure about like impairment and stuff like that, but I do know that there have been just an alarming increase in high-speed crashes in the Wichita area. So things like that, it will be great to have data analysts that can help, again, target the dollars to where we can be most effective in reducing crashes. So yeah, right on point there. And Matt Messina asked a couple questions, or he made a great point about vulnerable road users in the chat, and then also he asked about will the performance measures portal be accessible, and it is not yet. It's in beta, but it's very close. I think that here in the next couple weeks or in the next month, you'll get to see something more than the PDF that I have out there as a placeholder. So.
David, thank you very much for the information and the presentation. We appreciate that very much, and we look forward to working together. Go ahead, we got one more question, Jim.
David or Matt, what is a vulnerable road user? A quick definition for me, please.
To be very brief, it's mostly bicyclists and pedestrians, but could also include scooters, like motor scooters. What am I forgetting, Matt?
Well, it actually gets tricky. It depends on the program to what vulnerable road user means. In most cases, it's like David said, whatever would be classified in a crash report as a pedestrian or a cyclist. In some other cases, but not this one, it does also include motorcyclists, novice drivers, older drivers. But for this rule that was stated in the chat about the 15% would only be relative to pedestrians and cyclists, which was the non-motorized performance measure that David shared at the beginning.
Any other thoughts or comments? Again, David, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me share with you.
For committee reports, safety and health, I don't see Jack online. Active Transportation Committee, Alan.
Thank you. Just real quickly, our next meeting is next week, Wednesday, June 1 at 9:30. It's virtual. We'll be hearing presentations from Garden Plain and from Wichita on what their active transportation plans are. Love to see any of you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Just on other business for me real quick, I was going to do this at the beginning, but we do have Danielle Gaber from Hayesville has joined the TAC, and also Justin Shore from Clearwater. So thank you very much for both of you being here today and online. If not, we would not have had a quorum. So appreciate that. And again, thank you to the new staff. And at this point, is there any other business to be covered? Hearing none, seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you very much.